tries to mug you? What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Guns?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooted cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta riot in the streets.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Tuesday. We are live, finally. It is Primer Time on UCY.TV. My name is Michael, and I'm a little bit tired tonight.
My name is Nicholas, and I am sponsored by the beer of Italy, Birra Pironi.
Really? Give me a description of Birra Pironi.
So, Birra Pironi is a birra superiore. This is actually brewed in Rome, but it is enjoyed throughout the peninsula, and most folks where I was at in Naples either drink Peroni or they drink something called Azzurro. So blue is that term. But yeah, it's a very good beer. I mean, I would most closely say this resembles like a MGD.
Really? So it's a little bit heavier amber beer.
No, surprisingly, it's clear. It's just that the taste is very similar.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, why? Why? I don't like genuine. I mean, I'll drink Miller Lite, but I don't like genuine draft. I don't like High Life. I think High Life tastes like syrup.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very clear. If I had to liken it to a near peer, it would probably be in like the Dos Equis, the Especial category.
Okay, all right, I can dig that. Yeah. I had one Coors Banquet beer earlier.
God, I don't think I've ever drank a Coors willingly.
You just haven't been hot enough.
Well, or without enough taste buds. Yeah,
desperate enough, needing to urinate enough.
Yeah. No, I don't mess with the Coors. All respect to the folks in Golden, Colorado, but no thanks.
Yeah, I'll drink it every once in a while, but realize that you and I are also in kind of like differing locations, and you've got a far greater access to tasty import brews than I do.
Yeah,
I'm kind of stuck with the big three here.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is that when you get a chance to actually enjoy a beer, you don't feel like you have to drink the whole 12-pack.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you on that, and that's one of the reasons why I like Shiner. Like Shiner to me is more like a dinner beer. Like I don't if I have to drink or if I drink like 3 or 4 of them at one sitting, that's a lot.
Yeah, and then Shiner is one of those beers. I think actually is that the first couple of times you taste it, it's okay, but after a while, to me at least, it loses its appeal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it,
if I get in the right place, like after I taste like the first two or three, yeah, it gains appeal. But I got to be in the right place for that.
Yeah, I haven't had their White Wing, which is the Blue Moon knockoff, in a while, so that must have been a seasonal. And I certainly didn't get the prickly pear.
Oh, I like the prickly pear. See, now I like Shiners like seasonal and kind of off collar brews. What do they call that? They're special promotional items. And coming up, you're going to get the 25 pack.
Yeah, the family reunion, I think, is what they call them.
The family reunion, and I think it's a 25 pack for the 25 days of Christmas or whatever.
Oh, okay, so that's like an advent calendar then.
Yes, it's an advent calendar with beers.
Well, you can't beat that.
Yeah,
so we look like we got a light listening audience in chat today. We got about 7 in there right now. The Magnificent 7, as we like to call them.
You are fabulous 7.
There you go. So we've got a big story, mostly to do with me. Do you want to go ahead and break the news?
Well, I guess, yeah. Well, no, actually, you should be the one. I mean, it's you.
Well, but I mean, I defer to you, my good sir.
Well, Nick, unfortunately, is being deployed. And Nick's an integral part of this show. And honestly, I can't do this show without Nick. And Nick will be indisposed. He won't be able to do it. So we're probably getting to the end of our run here. And it's been a triple run, but
unfortunately, the gods that don't like to let me retire end up sending me to the other end of the world. So it's not going to be the easiest thing to try and keep up, especially with the time difference. It's just not going to be able to happen.
Well, what time is it in South Korea right now? I mean, it's like
it is 9 in the morning, or either 9 or 8 in the morning.
And you'll be at work at that time, so.
Oh yeah, I'll be at work at 6:30 in the morning.
Right. So we're probably going to end up calling it quits. I mean, next week Nick's going to be off because it's Halloween, and he's going to take his little guy trick or treating. Probably last time before he takes off and goes to Korea, and then we'd like to have kind of like one final show after that, and.
Unfortunately, that's going to be the swan song.
And I'm not really good at doing this by myself, as evidenced by many other attempts. So, yeah, that's like got the appeal you've got, Nick. So, I mean,
well, the way I look at it, it's a 2-man operation here, and not only that, but with all of our listeners in chat, and certainly with Jules. So, we've had a glorious run, as they say, and other shows have come and gone. Other shows are coming in to replace us. That's just the nature.
Yeah, I mean,
in a year's time, I will be able to go ahead and finally retire and not have to have those unfortunate all expense paid trips.
Well, and maybe at that time we can pick up and do something else again, but
hopefully I'm not glowing green at that time.
I got a big sneaking suspicion that nothing is going to happen.
I mean, nothing is going to happen. You've noticed nobody has said anything about North Korea in the last couple days.
No. It was because we've got Senator Cowboy Hat. Honestly, I saw her the other day. She looked almost like a Smurf. Well,
I sent you that one with the "Who Wore It Best" meme, and it was Frederica Wilson versus Speedy Gonzalez with the yellow hat.
Yeah, I don't know how major news outlets like CNN and MSNBC aren't somehow brought up on some sort of treason charge.
I mean, you'll never get. I mean, sedition maybe, but you're not get the. You're not going to get the traitor charge on any of those folks. That's just not happening.
Well,
There's
I mean, all right.
too many entrenched people within the Department of Justice for that to actually even come close to a passing thought.
Well, I mean, you said it best. It is sedition. I mean, it's just been. I mean, everything from Don Lemon on CNN, you know, vehemently unable to understand why we say the national anthem or why they sing the national anthem at football games. It's not like we're in second grade and have to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh yeah. And not even only in the western United States, you know, in the coastal states in Arizona and Alaska and Hawaii that they don't have to do it. You know what I mean?
It's similar to like daylight savings time or something like that. That's the answer we'll give him.
Yeah. Did you happen to hear the CNN attempt at rebuffing fake news?
Did they say we're not fake news in here?
No. It gets better. There is a CNN, probably like a 1 minute spot, and it's playing right now, and it says this is an apple. You might think it's an apple, but you'll hear some folks call it a banana. And they may say it's a banana hundreds of times. They may use all caps to say that it's a banana. They may shout it into a microphone to say it's a banana. And if you hear it enough, you might start to think it's a banana, but it really is an apple. And the problem with CNN is that since they've been pushing the narrative about transgenderism and how you feel you should be addressed and how you feel you should identify, was immediately spoofed with saying, this is a man. You might hear it called a woman. People may tell you to call it a woman. You might hear somebody complain about it being a woman, and then it just ends up being that, you know, you basically hear the argument being thrown back in the face of CNN with, no matter how many times you hear it be called a woman, it's still a man. And I just thought that was glorious.
All right, so you see, I mean, it's impossible to miss to anybody who's not, you know, addicted to football or anything like that. But you see how people are kind of pushing back against this sort of. Like,
yeah. So this is something, you know, going back to last year, which is, again, this is all based on feelings. You know, there was an interesting article I read today that outlined the story of Colin Kaepernick. You know, this is the unemployed black man who bit the hand that fed him in terms of, you know, standing up for racial injustice while, you know, making millions and millions and millions of dollars, right?
And wearing a Che Guevara T-shirt, the paragon of racial injustice. So
exactly. So, you know, little known to many folks is that Colin Kaepernick, while adopted, was not exactly picked out of the ghetto in the south side of Chicago. Born in what I believe is Minnesota and raised in Turlock, California, where the median home income is over $300,000 annually. Okay, these are not underprivileged folks. While honing his skills in high school, Colin Kaepernick went to football camps many times. And I don't know if you remember my foray into advanced sports, specifically with soccer. Do you remember me going to soccer camp?
I do.
You remember how expensive soccer camp was?
It was it was a week long, wasn't it? And
yep.
I think it was for that time. Yeah, it was a lot of money. I think
it was hundreds of dollars in 1980s money.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I mean, you could have bought a used Volkswagen back then for that kind of money.
Right. So then, when you think about it, you know, fast forward, you know, a decade or two, probably two, and you know, imagine with the celebrity football camps where young aspiring athletes go to hone their skills. You know, you could be talking about thousands of dollars. So this is an endeavor that not only takes a significant investment, it's not for the underprivileged. The underprivileged don't get to show up to these things. So, you know, being that he is a product of all these things and he wants to stand up for the injustices against black men, you know, well, like I said last week, you want if you want to be, upset and you want to protest something, you want to protest the killing of black men, I think you need to go start protesting hospitals, because last I checked, according to the CDC, which takes statistics and keeps statistics on mortality, the number one killer of black men and white men in this nation is heart disease, followed by cancer. So, who's for black men, homicides rate a mere 4.3% of all 2014 mortalities. That's pretty low.
That kind of shatters the dominant narrative that
It does.
that
It does.
the black man is dying, in mass every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the problem is that you again, I go back to this CNN narrative, and the CNN narrative is saying this is being called one thing, and you may hear it called something else, but it really is this. And what it comes down to is the NFL is basically bit the hand that feds them through its players union, and you're starting to see the outcomes of this. There are stadiums that are packed to less than 1/3 of capacity. The LA Chargers, which now are playing in the StubHub Center, which is basically it's a soccer stadium inside of LA. They couldn't even get enough fans to overwhelm the Denver fans who showed up to watch their own team lose in a 21-0 shutout. The Sea of Orange had invaded LA and had more fans than Chargers fans in Los Angeles. The LA Rams, which are in first place of their division, can't even fill the LA Coliseum where they're playing to half capacity. The Cleveland Browns game looked horrendous. I mean, this is something that has to have owners shitting their pants right now. If you were an owner and you depend largely on revenue to go ahead and pay your players, and you depend on the sale of jerseys and hot dogs and beer and parking spaces and jerseys and terrible towels and things like that, you are seeing that money evaporate before your eyes, because what has happened has awoken the American consumer who believes in this. And I will tell you, it is not the Broadway musical crowd who goes out and hits the NFL on Sundays.
No. It's what is it, Joe and Jane Sixpack, really? That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they are fighting back.
Hard for their money.
Yeah, they are fighting back, and they are saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to take my hard-earned money, and I am not going to sit there and waste time on a Sunday, and I'm not going to go ahead and have my weekend chewed up by people who don't appreciate the good graces that they have in this country."
So we've got attendances down, the all important merchandise sales are down, and the viewership is down. Is that correct?
Oh, viewership is down, especially when it comes to the eighth game of the NFL week, which is Thursday nights. Monday nights has taken a beating. Sunday night football has taken a beating, and they've had to resort to live streaming games that are being played in England on mediums like YouTube and Twitter. So this is the problem is that the cash cow has been sacrificed in the name of political correctness, and an owner who is hiding behind a collective, or I should say not an owner, but a league commissioner who is hiding behind a collective bargaining agreement, saying that he does not have the power to create a mandate on personal conduct that allows them to bench a player or to penalize a player with suspension if they decide to do this. But it's funny because they can go ahead and limit all kinds of other First Amendment free speech type actions. So say like putting the 9/11 tribute on the back of somebody's cleats or on the back of their helmet. The league says you can't do that, but the league can't turn around and say you can't use your First Amendment right to protest the national anthem. I mean, something's wrong here.
Well, I think what's wrong, end up looking at who the ownership and the management of the NFL is, and you compare this to other industries that are within the same common denominator, and you find that all of them have somewhat either covertly or overt anti-American actions, and by anti-American I mean against the way we were raised.
Right. No, and that's the problem is that the folks that are out there, you know what? If they truly believe that they are so slighted and that they are not being treated the way that they should be treated, or even if they're doing it on the behalf of somebody else, that just screams privilege. And you know what? We're all against privilege, right?
Well, I'm sorry, you haven't blamed the Russians or anything yet recently.
Well, yeah, I certainly haven't, because the Russians are kind of busy getting wrapped up in collusion with the Clintons right now.
Yeah, that's something I find to be fairly interesting. Is there's a whole lot of talk about Trump and calling the soldiers, and Obama called everybody whoever died and blah blah blah, and there has been absolutely zero coverage of the collusion with Clinton and Russia and Uranium One and Tony Podesta and Robert Mueller. And
Yeah, I think that's starting to come to the forefront. Like I was telling you before the show, Congressman Trey Gowdy out of South Carolina has brought up the Uranium One deal and the apparent collusion between Clinton's husband and the Russians.
yeah, the Putin. We got to blame Putin.
Well, I don't think they can blame Putin yet. He
Not
didn't
yet.
even have his shirt off yet.
No, he was still out busy rustling bears.
Yeah, that's good. So I think that the interesting thing is that you'll see here, I think the dominoes are starting to fall. We had a rhino in the U.S. Senate decide to throw in the towel after one term. Senator Jeff Flake of the great state of Arizona has decided that
Aptly named Senator Flake.
absolutely no irony in that, and has decided to invoke the children, and said that his children and grandchildren need him more than ever, and that he cannot be part of a Washington where things aren't getting done. Never mind the fact that he hasn't done anything himself in Washington. But I think what the real point is that he's just now realized he is going to lose any type of reelection campaign.
Arizona. He's out of Phoenix, right? He's not in the Tucson.
Yeah, he's not a Tucson guy. He's a Phoenix dude.
I wonder if that has to do with the changing demographics of the Phoenix area, and
Yeah, I have no idea. I think the problem is that in Arizona, there is a sizable retiree population of conservatives, but the problem is that when you get into places like Tucson and Tempe, you've got the ultra liberal university types, and they tend to sway votes.
Yeah, I would almost say that in this day and age in Arizona, I think the elderly vote is outweighed by the college vote. I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah. So the problem is that if Arizona ever gets a liberal senator, with the fact that John McCain has basically gone. What do they call him? He's gone maverick, and he has voted against his own party on nearly everything in this session of Congress, and largely just to spite Trump. This is a guy that if I was the governor of Arizona, I would very likely say, you know what, you are not acting in the interests of the people of this great state of Arizona, and you have brain cancer, and therefore you are ineligible to continue your service to the state.
Fired. You are fired.
Exactly. They want to talk about the 25th Amendment to impeach Trump. I think the guy who's undergoing chemotherapy for brain cancer is probably indisposed.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see his fitness to serve. And honestly, he doesn't really do anything to benefit or even to represent the citizens of Arizona. Everything that he proposes has to do with making war on somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People seem to forget the bomb Iran. They're going to be they're hard pressed to remember him saying that. But for those of us who do remember, John McCain is perfectly okay sending other people's kids to war.
Absolutely, and he'll send a bunch of your kids to war. He'll send
Oh
two
yeah,
generations of your kids to war. He got no problem with that.
yeah. It's rough. I feel bad for folks in Arizona because literally they are one contested vote away from turning into a blue state.
So, speaking of contested votes and turning into a blue state, and people like McCain and we just had the gathering of the five presidents and all. How do you think
Who
that?
were awfully chummy, if you might remember.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to sit there and give each other the finger or nothing. Um,
Yeah.
I noticed that George W. Bush or George Herbert Walker Bush was in a wheelchair and looking particularly frail.
Yeah, they're gonna have to change his. They're gonna have to change one of his middle names to Roller.
It would not be
because he was not using a walker.
no, he would chair bound.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of his longevity, given the fact that Trump is going to release the JFK files?
Oh, I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be fine. Honestly, I don't think there's gonna be anything that needs to, be a cause for concern. I think that he'll be okay, and he'll pass on when it's his time.
I got a kind of a feeling that he's going to kick off before those JFK files can be examined too closely, because I mean, he was in the CIA back then, and in an interview he said, "Well, I can't rightly recall where I was on the day that JFK died," and there's an actual report of something could happen in Dallas, phoned in by a Mr. G.H.W. Bush, but it was a different one. It wasn't him.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But I think it's interesting because we haven't talked about the shooting in Las Vegas, but here's something out of the Los Angeles Times, the bastion of conservative article writing that it is. A new poll shows that the Las Vegas shooting doesn't change opinions on guns.
Well, it shouldn't, other than it should change people's opinions on who make the knee-jerk reaction in the aftermath of something like this. I mean, we immediately saw the Bernie Sanders, Dianne Feinstein, and Charles Schumer trifecta going up and calling for outright bans on products that aren't even firearms, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the silencers, because that would have made it less dangerous.
Well, not only the silencers, but the bump stock. Calling for bans on honestly two pieces of plastic that ride together. They don't have any kind of functional capability outside of that thing.
Yeah.
And and not to mention that the effect of a bump stock can be replicated with your thumb and a belt loop.
Yeah, for the most part.
So I think a big part of this is people don't buy the lie or what looks like an apparent lie behind the big push for the new gun safety, gun control. This knee-jerk reaction in the aftermath of Las Vegas, because, well, I think people honestly don't believe what's going on. I mean, does it make any sense to you from what you've seen?
The way I look at it is you're always going to get that vocal element that screams fear, and that's the Chuck Schumer side, that's the CNN side, that's the Jimmy Kimmel Estrogen Hour show. That's all of that, because it's a concerted effort. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel was a failing comic before he latched onto the Harambe the gorilla thing. I don't know if you remember that. Begging and pleading with people to stop hunting. Okay, whatever. People kind of looked at him like, well, you're just a whining bitch right now. But then, it comes to the gun control thing, and then it becomes a health issue, and he got to go to Chuck Schumer for his talking points, and that's what he fills up his evening monologues with, and then everything is against Trump. And I think people just get sick of it. the Don Lemon open letter to Donald Trump about the fallen NCO who
Dude, he cried after that. He cried after something he wrote. You're supposed to cry when you read, something that somebody else wrote because it's beautiful. You're not supposed to cry when you read something you wrote.
Yeah, well,
That just means spaz. It doesn't mean you have like emotions or anything. You're just spaz.
Well, you're just a queen, right? And speaking of queens, Anderson Cooper, who by the way is Anderson Cooper?
He would be a Vanderbilt.
Okay. Do you remember Kathy Griffin?
I do. She's a fine redheaded celebrity that likes decapitated presidential hit.
Yeah. So take a look at this one. She has recently fired her celebrity attorney, Lisa Bloom, who happens to be the progeny of Gloria Allred, and also referred to Anderson. Yeah, exactly, and also referred to Anderson Cooper as an heiress.
Kathy Griffin called Anderson Cooper an heiress.
Oh yes, in light of him not defending her for her artistic display.
I love it when they eat each other.
They are, and I think that's what you're seeing with the Harvey Weinstein deal. This is the guy that has made them millions and millions of dollars in campaign contributions, and they are eating him alive. But I don't think he's going down without a fight.
I think he drags a whole bunch of people down with him. I really do. He either drags a whole bunch of people down with him, or he offs himself, or
exactly.
He ends up on the island with Ken Lay and whoever else died recently. That was
Bernie Madoff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look. I mean, we can't even be surprised by it anymore because every week it's the same kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that in and amongst all that, you've got the it's interesting. There's a city councilor for the city of Charlottesville who is attempting to have a grand jury seated to determine if any laws were broken in the August 12th incident, which claimed the life of a protester who was there illegally. Not to mention the fact that we have out of a couple different.
You talking about the Charlottesville Nazi thing?
Well, so not only that, there is everybody likes to say right-wing paramilitary militia forces, right? Well, there's a
right-wing safety squads.
Yeah, there you go. Snowflake Patrol. There is a story out of the Fox News that has started going ahead and showing the Rednet Revolt, and these are paramilitary groups that may sound like they're alt-right, but these guys are left-wing. So this might call into question a lot of narratives that are going on about who was there. Whether it was a lot of folks who were bussed in from out of town. There is a current member of not our community, but a community in Hampton in Virginia. The guy's name is DeAndre Harris. You might have seen pictures of him with his skull cracked open by a couple of people who didn't share his same opinion. However, it is now widely known that he went outside of a parking garage in the downtown area and attempted to attack people with a mag light. And for those of you who don't know what a mag light is, it's also be called a behave stick, because when you hit somebody with that, they have a tendency to behave at that point. Mag
lights were quite popular with the police department before the advent of body cameras.
Exactly. They are like little clubs that you can go ahead and you can use at your disposal. The John Brown Gun Club is another one of those. These are the red sash or armband wearing paramilitary wannabes who think that just because they have enough money to buy an AR and illegally outfit themselves with body armor and Molly vests that they are going to be the next FARC or the next Marxist revolution in this country.
Okay, so I want to throw at you since you brought this up. There's been
Oh, did we lose you, Michael?
Of gun store robberies.
That's true.
In the fairly recent past, there's been a couple in outside of the Dallas area. There's been a couple that have been in the northern Colorado area, say like Fort Collins. There were I want to say Northern California, not the Bay Area, north of
Santa Rosa, the areas that are largely affected by the forest fires.
And you have any kind of inkling that maybe that these gun thefts are related to any sort of Antifa rise, or maybe even these same militias that we're looking at right here?
I don't know. What I will say is that folks who go out and steal firearms are criminals, regardless of the factions with which they align themselves. But the problem is that a lot of these campus protests that happened, earlier this summer, specifically the ones in Berkeley, some of the lesser known, Fox News affiliated or CRTV affiliated shows like Steven Crowder had infiltrated the left wing camps, and they were openly talking about bringing weapons and knives and shivs and things like that to these protests. And for most of them, we've seen the outcome of those, whether it was the Antifa, easily concealed knives, or the bike attack, the bike lock attack professor from USF or UCSF. These folks are pretty much bent on violence. As long as you don't subscribe to their theories and their ideologies, your privilege is keeping them down.
Right. You are a free target to beat on because you do not agree with them. Thus, you are a Nazi.
Absolutely.
The only good thing that ever happened in America was World War II and how the United States single-handedly beat the Nazis.
Yeah, because the Russian Bolsheviks had nothing to do with beating the Nazis either.
Absolutely not. I mean,
no. And when you think about it, that's Russian collusion.
That is kind of collusion with the Russians, right there.
They were in cahoots.
I
think that's where Roosevelt, Stalin, and that guy from Britain, Winston Churchill. I think they had the meeting in cahoots.
Yeah, it was somewhere in Tunisia, I believe.
No, it was the Malta. The location was cahoots.
Yeah, the rare desert of verified air. Jesus, what a mess, man. I mean,
exactly.
Seriously, so like the same people who were saying that the Russians lie about everything, the Russians do this, the Russians do that. But what do they just start lying now? Because
the interesting thing is going to be is that this
believe everything else the Russians have said. I mean, straight up,
you have even Trump today on the way to a lunch meeting with Senate Republicans being accosted by some left-wing protester who has faked security credentials to breach the White House, and the Secret Service is again going to have some splaining to do because the individual got within range of throwing Russian flags at Trump while he was on his way to a meeting. So, the interesting thing is that I think that there's still some operatives that are operating within the different government agencies, whether it's the Secret Service, Department of the Treasury, Homeland Security, whoever they belong to this week. How does that happen?
All right, so I want to know who fakes credentials that get past the Secret Service. Who's got the skill to do?
Absolutely.
And who's got the drive to do that?
Who's got the lack of a fear of a consequence? You know what I mean?
All right. So what's the deal with Mueller being the special investigator and also the delivery boy for 10 grams of highly enriched uranium?
Well, how long has this special grand jury been going on? Months?
Yeah. I mean, well, shit, didn't it take off like the day after he got elected?
Yeah, so the day after he got elected, nearly the special counsel was empowered. I haven't heard anything. As a matter of fact, I have heard senators and and members of the House representatives have said there is nothing that we have found yet, but we are still looking. So what I hear is there is nothing. We're gonna work until we make something up, but right now we have nothing.
I'd say that's a fairly accurate assessment.
Yeah, and just to keep things real, this is we're heading into election season, and here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, uh, every town for gun safety is now shitting a brick because they're going to have to pour 700,000 into the race for governor, in which at one point they thought a liberal by the name of Ralph Northam was going to come away with an easy victory. A little known lesser known opponent, Ed Gillespie, is a Republican running, and some polls with 3-letter networks have said that he is ahead, and this is scaring the crap out of these folks.
What is Mr. Gillespie's position on firearms?
Mr. Gillespie is all about keeping the current gun laws that we have in place while seeking ways to expand the availability for ownership. Ralph Northam is exactly the opposite. He wants more restrictions, more individual liberties to be revoked in favor of common sense.
Well, common sense, dude. We should just legislate more common sense. We should make it illegal to not have common sense.
Yeah. He wants to ban assault weapons and high capacity magazines. So the assault weapons you're already not allowed to have, he wants to ban those again. He wants universal background checks and to restore the once a month gun purchase limits. So
you know what? I'm going to vote twice. Illegal.
Yeah. So Ed Gillespie is basically saying he opposes new restrictions on gun ownership. So you got to think that if every town originally announced that it was going to direct $90,000 into this, they're having to do another $70,000. They are concerned. If coming out to this state, they are concerned. But you know who's not showing up? Hillary Clinton.
I think that's because she broke her toe, dude.
Yeah. I mean, she was over there in England talking crap on the Graham Norton show, and not only that, but Joe Manchin. I don't know if you know him or not.
He is a senator from Virginia. Is that correct?
Well, West Virginia, the bastard counties. Yes, he is the senator from West Virginia, and he has said publicly that Hillary Clinton should not come to West Virginia because it would be good for neither her nor him. That's a pretty stunning rebuke.
Now, Joe Manchin is kind of a.
I would say he's a centrist, left-leaning Democrat.
Right, and he has. I guess he has good, strong backing because he manages to hold on to some of the. Or what could consider to be some of the gun vote in that area. Even though he's not necessarily a friend of firearms owners, he does retain some just because of his, backwoods ways and, homespun humor and all that.
Yeah. So, the interesting thing is like, Joe Manchin has basically dealt with a change in the state government where the governor of West Virginia recently changed his party affiliation from Democrat to Republican. The sentiment in the bulk of West Virginia is that of something that has good traditional family values, down home West Virginia values, but for whatever reason, I think mostly because of, traditions and an idea of what the Democratic Party used to be. People are just, they're indoctrinated into voting a certain way. I mean, that you see that in lots of places around the country. Folks that have a family member in the trade, they've always voted Democrat. So, they're there for us. They're there for the little guy. They're there for us unions. Well, I don't think that when they actually do the research on their own, they're going to come up with those findings. But I think that if West Virginia loses a centrist leftist senator, and Arizona actually reinforces with a true conservative who actually looks like he's got a very good chance of winning this, you're talking to look at a significant change to the balance of power in the Senate. Bob Corker is retiring. That's another one that Trump has been on the offensive about. What you're seeing is, I think Trump's will is about to be enacted across the land, because when you look at the healthcare vote, realistically, 2 votes or 1 vote could have swayed that into getting rid of Obamacare altogether. And you've got traitors on one side, like what I say McCain is. He's just going to vote opposite of him. Then you've got the flip floppers like Susan Collins of Maine, Olympia Snowe of Maine, Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. You can't count on Rand Paul for anything. And I think that 1 or 2 or 3 of those.
I don't think you can count on any of them for anything. We got a 535 retard file up in D.C.
Oh, that's mean to the retards, man.
Yeah, because you know what? Honestly, some of them can't.
Yeah, they can't help it.
Purposely became that way.
Yeah, they can't help it. So the interesting thing is, like I said, is one of the things that we saw was a story that comes out of the Daily News in New York, and that the LGBTQ PRSTUV groups are starting to stack arms, and they are hitting the firing line. And there's a story out of New York. It's in Orange County, where it's called, the gun club is called Trigger Warning Queer and Trans Gun Club.
Oh my God, that is just the worst name. But go ahead, please.
Does that just sound interesting?
Coverage.
So, out of Rochester, New York, a former pacifist pumped a shotgun at the firing line. And granted, this looks like a woman who has basically failed out of Bud's class. The image that you see, and I'll drop it into chat for those that are in the viewing audience tonight. This is great. I mean, this is privileged white women in overalls with buzz cut haircuts and tattoos that cover the bulk of their biceps, saying that everybody should be allowed to be able to have a 22 on their person. And, her quote is, "I grew up afraid of guns. The first time I was near a gun in the house, it was one of my friends, and I basically jumped back. And it felt dangerous to me in a society where there are so many guns." Again, feelings are the operative, catalyst for anything in this woman's idea.
I have to applaud them for taking their a proactive step in learning about firearms the correct way. I have to chide them for being absolute cartoonish morons.
Yeah, they. I tell you, when you figure out that there are folks out there that were realistically scared of something that unless you cause it to do an action, it's not going to do anything. And they talk about their feelings, and then in the same sentence they talk about feeling empowered. I think that somebody might have been converted to being a gun owner.
Wait till they figure out that they like 30-round magazines.
30-round magazine clips with silencers and bump stocks.
I still think the best thing I've seen, and I can't say that it's true or not, but I mean, they do enough asinine stuff regarding firearms. It might as well be true. But is that what was it? I think it was Moms Against the
Moms Against Gun Violence or something like that.
Yeah, one of those groups, and they showed. Imagine if a sniper rifle had a bump stock, and they showed a bump stock on a bolt action rifle. That's the fear pandering, right? Because how many bolt action guns do you know that go into semi-automatic mode? None. Not even like an old.
I would venture to say that you're not even going to be able to get that at the York, Pennsylvania gun buyback this weekend.
Is there one in York, Pennsylvania?
Yes, indeed. At the fire department, they are going to be having a gun purchase event, not a buyback, because they didn't sell it to you. It is a gun purchase event.
Well, kudos to them for actually using the English language the way it was intended.
Oh, no, they didn't. That was my interpretation of their gun buyback thing.
Oh, okay. All right, so what's the prize?
So right now, and as the story comes in, is that The gun buyback is going to be held in order to replace the 8 retiring officers. So basically, they're going to attempt to use the guns one way or another to be able to replace eight officers.
That makes no sense.
It does. It makes no sense. This is like Enron doing some creative accounting.
This is congressional math, is what this is.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in the good news, we have from no other than CNN Money is a story that was published a little while ago, probably about the last time we were, really talking about guns, was that Trump may open up exports of American firearms.
That would be nice. That would be, go with it.
Yeah. So the Trump administration through the State Department will basically look to continue the exports of AR-15s and then possibly the Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifle.
Now we have to say that these are weapons that are entirely capable of being purchased here, smuggled out of the United States to their wherever their intended destination is, and being easily replicated.
Right, absolutely, or reverse engineered. And these, like I said, these are intended to go to countries such as Canada, Australia, Japan, Britain, Israel. Folks who are regular purchasers of American military hardware. The interesting thing is that I still have not heard anything on the we'll call it the repatriation of the American M1s coming from South Korea. I've when I'm over there, I'm going to look into that directly.
I think you should. Do you think that you will have any sort of luck or anything with securing yourself one of them?
Absolutely not while I'm over there, because South Korea is Nancy Pelosi's wet dream. This place would have Dianne Feinstein chomping at the bit because gun ownership is highly regulated.
Absolutely zero firearms.
Personal firearms. If you are one of the chosen few lucky ones, and you actually happen to have a firearm, it is stored locked up at your police station, and you only get your shotgun to go hunt a couple pheasants or partridge or whatever else there is out there. You're not taking out a center fire rifle anytime soon.
And by no means a pistol.
Absolutely not. No.
All right. Well, let's do some gun safety real quick.
Please do.
All right. First rule of firearm safety is every gun is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and ensure that firearm is not loaded. Rule number 2 is keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Do not point the muzzle at anything you do not wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target, know what's beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule, we've tried to do it. I think we've done it every show, haven't we?
Just about.
Yeah. All right. So keep the booger hook off the bang switch. That's right. Do not put the finger on the trigger until you're ready to discharge the weapon. Keep it outside of the trigger guard. There are no accidental discharges. They are negligent.
There you go. So with that, I think that about sums it up, man. We are back in the flow after 2 weeks off. Just schedules did not allow for us to be live and in vivo, as my Spanish friends like to say.
And changes in life happen, I mean, we both got things going on, and yeah.
The interesting thing is here we are, the last week of bow season here in the Commonwealth, and I have yet to smack a deer yet.
Have you gone with the intent of trying to smack a deer?
That's every time I get in the vehicle, that's my intent. But yes, to the actual hunting grounds, I've gone there with the intent. I've just not had the opportunity.
Now, you did say that you were sort of surprised that you saw a lot of roadkill deer.
Actually, we had a cold snap about 10 days ago. We got down into the mid-30s here. And no joke, the second day after that cold snap, there was at least 10 different brand new roadkill on my route to work. And granted, I take a 25-mile ride into work and home every day. 10 deer in that stretch of road is a lot. And where it had been largely free and clear of any kind of roadkill, it's amazing to me how the weather conditions can get the animals up and moving. and they don't like being cold, so they're going to be up walking around. And sure enough, it is actually that time of the year where the rut is starting to kick in. And I'm getting reports out of some of my compatriots and some of the people across the Commonwealth that are saying that they are observing the activity that goes along with the rutting behavior, and it should make for an interesting weekend. I think I'm going to try and get out tomorrow and see what I can do. I've got a good spot picked out. A couple buddies of mine, we went out last week and we adjusted a tree stand that I have. And I mean, this is a very, very, very nice tree stand. I will tell you that. It is very comfortable. It's easy to fall asleep in this thing, which is a dangerous thing.
Oh yeah, dude. Anytime you fall asleep like that outside, you can be in for a world of trouble.
Yeah. So this is a very comfy tree stand, and it is what it is, and we have it in a very good location. And my partner today actually went out there, pulled my camera for me, and we'll be bringing it tomorrow. So hopefully I will have some pictures if the trail camera has not failed. And if it did, you will be getting a full report on this for the next show.
I would like to see that, yeah. And I'll make sure I'll try and get a way that I can drop them into chat, which I'm still like kicked out of for some reason.
I'll put them on like Flickr or something like that, and I can drop them.
All right, that'll work.
Yeah, so definitely want to give a big shout to all of our listeners and all of our viewers in chat. We had lower numbers here, but I directly attribute that to the protests in the NFL.
I would say it's because we were kneeling prior to the show.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so is there anything out there on the market that interests you right now?
So right now, honestly, I would like to pick up I would like to either pick up a Mossberg 500 or I was thinking about a Remington 1187.
Why the 500?
Well, the 500 has a lot of different variations that it can come with. You can get magazine tube extensions pretty easily. You can get cantilever tubes. The barrels with cantilever scope mounts. You can get all kinds of things to do to it. Not so much for customization, but more for interoperability between hunting methods, whether you're going wing shooting or whether you're going to go deer hunting or turkey hunting. And now that I'm actually on a spot where I have physically seen turkeys myself, might try and do that here in the next couple days.
I think you should. I can't say enough good things about a Mossberg 500. I can't say enough good things about pretty much any of the Mossberg shotgun products in the 500 or the 88 range. The 500, the 590, and the Maverick 88 are exceptional weapons. They are exceptional values, really. I don't think the 5 all that friendly, but the 590 is kind of a specialty item, and you always pay up on those.
Yeah, well, and price is going up on it.
Oh yeah, it's desirable, and like we were saying earlier, you cannot find a Mossberg Shockwave.
Yeah, exactly.
You can find them at distributors, and that's about it.
Yeah, well, it's a niche gun, and that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to fill a niche.
I think it's going to fill all kinds of niches. That's why you can't find one.
That's right.
I'm sure in about 6 months you'll start finding them for sale on the used market, but that's
once the novelty wears off, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, we definitely want to give a big shout out to Jules. Jules having us on here, tolerating us.
Jules, the whole reason behind UCY. Everybody, thank you very much. Take it easy. Stick around, watch the video. Have a good night.